What up? I'm Jay.
And I'm John.
And today we are doing the back-to-back Shaq attack. Steel 4Reelz.
Written and directed by Kenneth Johnson, starring Annabeth Gish, Richard Roundtree, Ray J, Judd Nelson, and Shaquille O'Neal.
Many know that Shaq made of nails, but did you know that Shaq made of steel? Feel me?
Loosely based off of the DC comic Steel, which is a variation of Superman after Superman dies, we have John Henry Irons, who is a military weapons specialist who him and his partner Sparks create new age weapons for the military. When testing these weapons out, there's a giant accident that forces Irons to quit the military and leaves Spark paralyzed. Now that Irons is going back to his roots and hitting the streets, he feels as though he needs to do more than just make weapons. Instead, he wants to put an end to these weapons and becomes the Man of Steel. Not Superman, a literal man wearing a steel outfit fighting crime.
Now what's dope about this movie? I'll tell you right off the bat, it's Shaquille O'Neal in a fucking movie. Because he's the best. He's constantly missing these free throws, which was notable of Shaq back in the day. He got better.
Never could make the free throws.
And they didn't hide the fact that he was Shaq. I mean, you can't hide the fact. He's the biggest guy, and he's actually like the biggest Superman fan.
Now put it on the Ritz. The best thing since grits and fake. Man of Steel, who you with?
And he's got like the Man of Steel tatted on his arm, which they showcase. Having him play Steel, a vigilante Superman, is fucking awesome.
This movie doesn't get the credit it deserves in the sense of how well it's written.
Well, I'll be dipped in shit and rolling breadcrumbs.
One of Odessa's recipes?
Like, it's cheesy and campy and it comes off as like more of a kid's movie, but they're so smart with the writing and the references. In particular, Richard Roundtree, aka John Shaft, handing the hammer and saying how much he loves the shaft. Seriously, it doesn't get any better than that.
Well, I did the metal work. I especially like the shaft.
It's both a Shaft reference and a Dick reference at the same time.
Of course, I decided to do more than pound things.
On top of that, we've got Ray J. Seriously, like this kid, Mars Attacks, if I'm not mistaken. This film, his character, I thought Martin was pretty funny in this film.
She wants to open a restaurant and call it Black and Blue.
I think you excluded a very pinnacle moment for Ray J's career. Not only is he Brandy's brother, but he's also the dick in the Kim Kardashian sex tape.
Going back to the Shaft, I see.
Man, I got all kind of crazy honey sweating me.
There's something about all the characters in this film. I think it's more the reactions. Everyone in this film over the top sold, and it's just like a really like funny wrestling match.
No! I also really love that this was absolutely a knockoff of Iron Man. It's just like Steel Man, but they can't call it that, so it's just Steel Man. And he's even like working with Iron, and his name is Irons. Like, they wanted to call him Iron Man so bad, but they just didn't. And I love that.
Well, you gotta keep it to the source material. That's why this is loosely based off of Steel. Like when Superman died in '93, they had this run of comics where you had different versions of Superman.
The Cyborg one was probably my favorite.
Yeah, and then obviously Superboy.
Steel was probably the most underrated, potentially. I don't know.
He got his own movie.
He did get his own movie. Superboy never got shit.
You had to wait for
Smallville.
You had to wait for like CW to come out and pick this up.
If you were collecting comics at that time, you got a stack of those white plastic books and you kept them in the plastic. And then sometimes you get the black plastic. That's the good stuff.
This is 2020, and the way that superhero movies are going nowadays, everyone's like, oh, Deadpool, first rated R like superhero film. Black Panther, like first like African-American hero. 1997 and 98, this was the time where we had Steel, same year, Spawn, rated R.
Al Simmons, my man.
I hate saying it, the black sheep of the Marvel universe right now. Blade, everyone seems to forget that Blade came out before everything else in the MCU.
If everyone forgot about Spawn as like the first black and first R-rated superhero movie. But Blade also did the same thing. It's like you can't forget about 2 movies. And Blade had a fucking franchise.
Yeah, and now you have Steel. Why is this not getting the credit it deserves?
Why didn't it get a franchise? That's what makes me the most sad about this whole situation. This was great. I don't care what Stuckman says.
This is not a good movie.
I don't care about Rotten Tomatoes 11% bullshit. This was a quality movie, and I really respect it. Did you see the fucking Batmobile, aka the Hummer, where the guy says, "Yeah, boy," when he fucking lasers a hotel lobby filled with arcade machines that are actually filled with guns? Yeah, boy! Because that's the way that they've decided to sell guns, is through the biggest means ever. It's like, okay, you want 1 gun? You're gonna have to take this 200-pound machine off me. Also, that's NBA Jam, it's the newest thing.
Let's talk about like Steel himself, okay?
John Henry Irons has turned himself into the man of steel.
Why are we not talking about how cool his like suit was? And that hammer, the weapons, I thought it was awesome.
You can use it as a sledgehammer, sure. We know Shaq, he goes diesel sometimes, and he wants to just put all his muscle into it, and he's the man of steel too, so he's gripping this thing that's probably weighing 60 plus pounds, and he doesn't swing it that often, I'm gonna be honest. But he does switch it around, and he uses it as like a shotgun and or a laser beam.
It's hammer time.
And can even attach it to his custom motorcycle.
Or use it as a giant magnet.
I'm gonna be honest, if I was like one of those guys who are robbing a bank, totally would have tried to get that suit and just walk into Fort Knox, and I'm attracting all the metal. Although I think that gold doesn't really do that. You probably actually end up killing yourself because all these iron rods would just go. But that would be a good movie too. So I'd watch that. We'll call it Gold. And that's why I'm reviewing movies and not making them.
I laugh at danger.
I boogie around danger like a soul-trained dancer.
There's a lot of dope in this movie, but there's also some whack stuff. But before we get to the whack, let's find that oh snap moment of the day.
My tour was over. After what happened to you, I ain't trying to go back.
Well, I'll come see you as soon as I'm back on my feet.
Oh, snap!
Now what's whack?
The fact that Steel never used his hammer as a hammer. Like,
You can picture the sparks going already. I have no idea why that didn't happen. This guy is the biggest dude, and he can swing a hammer so hard, I bet.
like yes, he took out a 2x4.
You don't bring a 2x4 to a sledgehammer fight, first of all. Or a bank heist.
Put the gun down and there won't be any trouble.
Oh man, please, I'm about to smoke you like a blunt.
You know what's whack? Souffle. I've seen a lot of souffles in my day, and I love them. So good. When done correctly. Even though Granny over here is trying her best. She's speaking in ASMR tones.
Looks like you grew a little taller.
So that she can get the best souffle so it doesn't cave in on itself. Maybe you're just making it wrong and you're being too delicate about the whole situation. She needs to get her shit together, watch some Rachel Ray, and just put out some quality shit.
Martin, how am I ever supposed to master the art of French cooking when you keep crashing in here like James Brown? I feel good, na-na-na-na-na-na.
I did find it odd how often people didn't care about their surroundings in this film.
Where'd that son of a buck go?
The Batcave?
Even Shaq, because at one point, he almost cut someone in half with his laser gun.
Oh, when he was cutting open the water tank? I'm pretty sure that laser graphic went through the head of a guy.
Anytime the robbers were, like, he knocked the robbers out, he was just like, yo, get out of here.
Yo, son, this guy's got eyes in the back of his head.
You got it, and I'll be watching you. Get out of here!
That's not what you're supposed to do. They just committed a crime. You're not being like, oh, go be free.
He's just making more work for him.
Yeah.
If anything.
I know. He just wants to try out the equipment.
You're right. Maybe he's just an arms dealer in the making. He just didn't elevate as fast as Big Willie did.
All right, Big Willie, as promised.
Whatever the other guy selling guns to Big Willie's name was. Burke? Imagine your name is Burke in a movie. When you got steel.
And electricity and sparks.
Iron, sparks,
Big Willie.
Big Willies.
Big Willie. This is a nice setup.
Slats. Shout out to the pirate guy. That guy's cool.
Actually, you know what? We never really talked about it, but Judd Nelson's character. Like, did we like Judd Nelson?
I didn't like him.
So he's Wack?
Yeah, he's Wack.
You've become quite interested in our new microchip game technology.
Yeah, that new interactive unit. It sounds,
Fly.
Fly, yeah.
Judd Nelson has always been Wack. I think a lot of people who grew up with 80s and stuff, they like Judd Nelson. I get it.
He was the bad boy. He's dreamy.
You know, it's hard to be dreamy when you're 3 feet shorter than Shaq. I'm gonna be honest. I know it's harsh to hate on height, especially when I'm sitting next to John here.
Because he's so much shorter than me, according to everyone in our entire audience.
Hold on.
Short
Let's
one.
straighten this out. I'm taller than John despite my slouch. I just don't give a shit when I'm sitting at this table. I slouch a lot. I'm like 6 inches taller than him, but like not here, which is good. Like it would be really awkward if I'm like, hey man. But Burke's height isn't necessarily the issue. It's that you know he's a fucking criminal off the bat. When he's working with Irons back in the military, he's just a dick. Yeah. They're like, oh, we got this weapon. It's not calibrated correctly. He's like, oh, I can fix that. Well, he's trying to get it in with this lieutenant here. I don't know who she is, but he's like, oh, you got the money? I'll make these weapons work for you, girl. And he fucking pumps that shit to the maximum and just causes a shitstorm.
He killed her. They actually said he killed her.
Oh, he killed the girl that I thought he was gonna sleep with?
Yeah.
Well, that's a fucking issue.
He paralyzes Sparks and kills the woman he wanted to deal with.
That is not a good look.
Eat the hot dog. Don't be one.
Yet, of all the things that happened, he just got court-martialed.
Even when Shaq was straight up like at the bench 6'9"ing on him, just like,
Burke did it, sir.
and that guy got nothing?
Yeah.
He got a fucking new job the next day.
Like a great job. He was making millions.
It's wild. We need to do some hood rat shit.
That's how you get that cream.
Cream?
CREAM. Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bills, y'all.
Before we move on, I don't know if this is whack or dope, didn't know where to put this, but the music in this movie is fucking weird, and I loved it. You got Shaq clearly chasing a guy that knows he's being chased, and they throw in spy music. Why are you putting this Mission Impossible shit in our face? It doesn't make any sense.
And then you have like the science montage or whatever with like the gospel music as they're just like building the suit. And it's just like, you gotta stand up.
Oh, that's so good. And I mean, they hit us with that at the end, which was so quality and perfectly timed. Now it's time for the lowdown. I don't care what anybody says. This movie is solid. I really enjoyed this movie, and I don't understand why everyone hates it. Sure, you can be a pompous critic, and we've come off as that at times, I get it. But at some point, you need to put some filmmaking bullshit aside and just take in what you're watching for what it is. It's a comic book movie aimed at kids that stars Shaquille O'Neal, a very popular basketball player, especially at the time, and it was good. Yeah, there's really shitty moments because the acting is garbage all around him. And from him as well. I mean, the acting in general was really bad. But the concept is fun, the characters are fun, and it plays out like a comic book movie. It's not supposed to be taken seriously. It's supposed to be a fun, uplifting, over-the-top kind of movie. Watching it now, holy hell, I absolutely loved it. I mean, there are faults, and it's not the best movie, so I'm gonna give this 3.5 rocket wheelchairs out of 5.
I find this hilarious because I remember this movie as a kid. I remember it coming to theaters. I remember watching it on VHS, and I remember enjoying it. But revisiting it, I appreciate it a lot more. And I think it's because there were so many references and so many witty one-liners that I probably didn't pick up when I was younger, that I was really entertained by this film. There's no beating around the bush in this film. It knew what it was, it delivered, and I had a good time. Sure, the acting may not have been the best, but we had reputable actors in this film. And honestly, I think this film was ahead of its time for the comic book to movie presence. Like, everyone forgets about these like few films that came out in the late 90s when all you ever wanted was your favorite video game or comic book turned into a movie. You wanted Mortal Kombat as a film. You wanted Street Fighter. Like, this generation of film has a bad reputation, and I don't get it. I absolutely loved these like films from the mid to late 90s that were adaptations of something else. You know what? Haters are gonna hate. I think people should watch this movie. It deserves more credit than it actually gets. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this film 3.5 roasted nuts out of 5.
That's enough! That's enough! My ass is on fire!
Thought I smelled some nuts roasting.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, links are in the description. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. 4Reelz.